I mentioned last week that there would be a connection in this week's episode. Believe that, I'll remind you of it near the end. This story has to do with the neighbors in a fairly exclusive neighborhood in Israel. A series of private residences that line the block. And every two of these homes, as expensive as they are, especially on Israeli standards, but as impressive and expensive as they are, each two homes share one garage. It is a two-car garage, and it has a locking door, and each of them can enter from their home into the garage. So one night, Ruvain pulls in. His neighbor has already come home for the evening and is parked inside. It's late that night. And as he opens his door and steps out of his car, he is accosted by two men who jumped out of the bushes and snapped the key to his car out of his hand and let them know that they were taking his vehicle. Now, Ruvain says, you know, my car is a $40,000 car. But the guy next to me, that car right behind you, that's a $90,000 car. Maybe you want to take that one. Now, is that allowed? That could be a big problem. So anyway, the would-be thieves said, you know, thanks, guy. In fact, we'll take both cars. And they push him to the side. They fix the wires, they jump the car, and they drive away with both cars. Ruvain immediately calls the police to report the theft of both vehicles. Now, what Ruvain did at first glance certainly poses a problem of what we call Masira, of somehow handing over, revealing where property of another Jew might be, and facilitating its acquisition by that other party. But Ruvain really was calculated in what he did, and he later explains it. He actually goes to Rav Silverstein to explain what he did, because his neighbor with that more expensive car, the neighbor also had GPS tracking theft alert device in the car. And so once the car is reported stolen, it could be tracked. And the police actually did track down both cars just before they were about to cross over into Gaza. And Ruvain, when he asked Rabbi Silverstein, so he says, again, that his whole purpose of alerting the thieves to the fact that they might want the neighbor's car was only so that he could arrange for the reacquisition of what he thought would be only one stolen vehicle. In the end, were actually both stolen vehicles. So Rav Silverstein ruled that since he was a Moser, even though he had reason for his plot, but he was guilty of a level of Masira, of leading someone without rightful ownership to steal the property of another. Now, the vehicle itself was recovered and it wasn't damaged, but Rav Silverstein ruled that any expenses that were involved in what happened that night would be Ruvain's responsibility. Even someone, Shulchan Aruch teaches us, that even someone who saves his life by damaging somebody else's property, which is allowed, he is allowed to damage another property if it's a matter of trying to save his life, but he's going to have to make restitution to the owner of that property that he did destroy. So Ruvain would certainly have to pay for the gas, and if there was anything else established as being a cost, that 100% obligated to reimburse for those expenses. But Rabbi Silverstein added that since Ruvain received hana, received benefit from the fact that his neighbor went to the extra expense of installing the tracking device, that he should actually pay a third of what the cost of that device initially was, to offset the hana, the benefit that he had. Last week, if you recall, was a different question of the hana. Last week was the fellow hired to be a security guard and take a family for a tour in the Ir Atikah, the old city of Yerushalayim. And in the end, the host of the family tour, the father of the bar mitzvah boy, realized that the security guard he hired at a hefty sum did not have any bullets in his gun. And the guard admitted that he forgot. So there comes the debate of whether or not the host of the family tour should pay for at least the benefit they received of thinking that they were under pretty good protection. But it's not a clear-cut case there, because after all, the guard was hired because of a very specific concern of possible bodily damage, and not having a loaded gun might have prevented the security guard, if the situation arose, from being able to protect those he was hired to escort. But in the case tonight, where there was obviously a benefit to Ruvain that his neighbor's car had that tracking device, and as a result, Ruvain was able to get his own car back, he definitely derived hana'ah, and he would have to pay for the hana'ah of using the tracking device of his neighbor. Hopefully, these kind of episodes remind us of the strictness of halacha and how careful we have to protect property, both our own and of others.